Alright. Smooth jazz stylings of Andrew Allen. Hey everybody, welcome to Prop Live. This is Bill Duran from Punished Props, and I'm doing my own live stream thing here I do every week where I answer your questions all about prop and costume making. It's just me this week. I been running around Washington State. I didn't book a guest, so you get me today. That's it. Me, and I'm exhausted, but I have a massive cup of coffee. Yeah, that's good. Alright. Before I get started, I'm going to tell you guys about the thing I just worked on. I just finished up a sniper rifle from Mass Effect, and I'm pretty stoked about that because I haven't built anything from Mass Effect in a while, and I love me some Mass Effect. Where is it? So I did this video about the M98 Widow Mass Effect sniper rifle over on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/punishedprops. And I can do a screen share like that, and I can show you guys. Oh, we got ads. Here, excuse me, here we go. And there is a 20-second ad on my own thing. Ah, damn. Forget it. Anyway, I built a giant sniper rifle. Go check it out. Or you can go to punishedprops.com and you can find the link to it there. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I made my twin brother wear my armor so I could take photos of him and then pass him off as me. I think it worked. Yeah. Alright, let's just answer a whole bunch of questions. You guys have been posting all kinds of questions on my Facebook page from earlier today, so I'm just going to start digging into these things and answering your questions, since you guys were so nice to send them to me. Alright. Jay Cosplay would like to know, what's the best method you have found for making decals in-house for weapons? Any suggestions or hacks for printing white lettering? Well, oh my goodness, punching everything. I did a YouTube video a little while back. Let me see if I can find that for you on my channel. Again, youtube.com/punishedprops. And I made a stenciling video, and it was called Prop Shop Custom Stencils for Your Custom Props. And I talk about both doing stencils the way I do them, which is with vinyl cutter, because I've got a vinyl cutter hiding right back there, or doing it with masking tape, which is how I did it forever. What I would do is I would design my stencil in a vector drawing program or whatever, Photoshop, print it out at scale, the right size that it's supposed to be, and then I would take that piece of paper and I would tape it down over a piece of masking tape on a cutting surface, and then I would trace cut it out with an X-Acto and cut it out. And then I could peel up the stencil below, the masking tape below, and I'd have a pretty good stencil. And I got by with that for a long time, and it looked pretty good. You can also, if you want to try getting vinyl decals made or vinyl stencils made, you can go to Kinko's usually, or a sign-making store, and they'll print you out vinyl, and they'll cut it and weed it out for you. And you can either have them weed out the positive part and make a stencil, or you can have them weed out the negative like they normally would, and then you'll have a sticker. So you could just lay the white stickers down and you'd have your decal. If you use them as a stencil, be warned that the vinyl they will probably use, the sign-making vinyl, will be high-tack and it may peel up some paint below it. The vinyl stencil that I use is a low-tack stencil vinyl, and it's transparent. It's really cool. So there you go. You have some options. Be wary if you go get stencil vinyl made at a sign-making store or at Kinko's. They will have a minimum order. A friend of mine went to make some stickers at a sign-making place recently, and they said that their minimum order was $60, which is a bummer if you just need like a tiny thing made. You can get 100 of them cut if you want, but that's on you. So there you go, Jay Cosplay. Hopefully some of that was helpful to you and I wasn't just rambling. Good luck with your decals. All right. This next one is from Kobe. Colby wants to know, What's the best method of weighting or weathering your weapons? Oh, weighting your weapons so it isn't so light. Well, if you build them like I built, the last thing I built was a sniper rifle. I built it out of MDF, and it does not feel light. In fact, it's really heavy, in the neighborhood of 8 pounds. If you build it out of something like styrofoam or like the insulation foam, then it's going to be super duper light, and it won't feel, you know, super heavy. What I would say is, if you're going to tote that around a convention all day, let it be light, because an 8-pound gun in your hands will feel like a 50-pound gun by the end of the day. But if you are insistent on making it heavier, you can glue washers into it, or hollow out a cavity and put a bean bag or something in there. That's up to you. You can get really creative. I know people will mod Nerf guns, and if they want them to be heavier, they'll use like an epoxy putty to like wad in bits of stuff or metal, or like a metal pipe or something to make it feel heavier. But that's on you to figure out what you got laying around that feels heavy that you can stow in there. All right, thank you, Colby, for your question. Lisa would like to know. Oh, and again, guys, if you're watching live, I see there are a couple people watching live. You can ask your questions using the Q&A app, and I'll click on them, and I can answer them right here. Lisa wants to know, hey, Bill, I noticed that Harrison, that's Harrison Cricks from Volpin Props, has been working with tooling foam recently. Have you ever worked with it at all? If so, what do you think about it? Could you talk about the differences, the different densities and types and their uses? I do actually have a box of tooling foam in there, and it's like little chunks and scraps and stuff. I haven't used it very much. The really nice thing about it is that it is a higher density. Even the lower density stuff is a higher density than something like styrofoam or the insulation foam. It will hold an edge better. It's still foam. It's still going to dent or ding if you nick it or push it with your thumbnail at the lower densities. But it is a nice homogeneous density. It's easy to lathe or to cut. And the higher density stuff is really, really cool. Like some of the high density foam it feels like rock solid. Like it's super heavy, super dense. I haven't worked with that yet. I only have a couple pieces of it. And frankly, I don't really have a reason to use it yet. But I'm looking forward to playing with it. Yeah, and you can get some yourself. The company I got mine from is a company called 5 Axis. They do CNC milling of what do you call it? Cars, full-size cars. That gives them a lot of scrap left over. So if you go to eBay, they actually sell a lot of their scrap, like a box of scraps that you could get and play with. You also may be able to find tooling foam elsewhere if you look around. I would recommend, if you're thinking about using it, get a box of scraps or whatever you can for the cheapest amount possible, and then play with it and see how you work with it and see what you like. There you go. Thank you, Lisa. All right. Daniel wants to know, were there any classes that specifically helped your costume making skills? I went to school for 3D computer art and animation, but I did take a lot of general art classes, more drawing, sculpting, 3D design, color, all that stuff, and it all helped a little bit. Anything where you are using your hands to make stuff, you're gonna work on your hand-eye coordination. You're gonna work on your fine motor skills. Specific, though, I can't think of a specific that would have helped. And it depends too. If you want to make masks for costumes, then you may consider taking all the sculpture classes you can get your hands on, because then you could sculpt a mask, you can mold, and cast it. If you are still in school right now and you're going there for art and they have a class on molding and casting, I would say go for that for sure. Because I never took a class like that, and that would be awesome if I did, because I do a ton of molding and casting. There you go. Thank you, Daniel. All right, another sip of my beverage. And we'll grab this question right here. Boop. This one is from Hannah. Do you have any tips on painting plastic? Do you favor a specific primer, acrylics versus enamels or oils? All of the kits I do are made out of urethane plastic, and it paints really, really well. Generally, you want to make sure you give it a good sanding with a pretty high grit sandpaper or sanding sponge before you paint it, and then just use a primer on it. I just use a Rattle Can Rustoleum Painter's Touch primer. I like that one a lot. If you're going to paint, let's say, like a Nerf gun, you'll probably want to make sure you sand it thoroughly, because that plastic does not like to take paint, especially if it's not sanded. And then you can use some paints like the Krylon Fusion paints, because those are designed to work with plastic. I believe they have acetone in them, so that when you spray them on, they'll eat into the plastic a little bit, and then the paint will set in it really well. Yeah, so there you go. Good luck, Hannah. Paint some plastic. Robert would like to know, have you ever I'm trying to figure out the question here. Have you ever been inspired to get more involved in your favorite genre properties? Beyond cosplay, would you participate in, say, a fan film, or use your network to help an effort? If so, how? My network. So far what I've done is, let's see, how do I put this? So my efforts are always centered around running my business, and that has to come first. But what I will do is do little projects for other big projects. So, for example, a friend of mine is a filmmaker, and he did a really cool little short film, and I made the props for that. Or if you're talking about helping a cause, I donate props to the Child's Play charity, and they auction those off to make money for kids in hospitals. So I'll do little things like that to help out. I've never run something myself, although it's something I've been thinking about doing in the future. I just have to find a cause that I'm feel connected to really start doing something like that. There you go. I hope that's what you were looking for, Robert. All right, let's go. Let's grab this one from Johnny. What's your best method for getting yourself going on a project when you feel derailed or otherwise lacking the motivation? I always have more than one project going, or more than 5 going. I always have a ton of projects to work on, and if I'm feeling not motivated, or if I'm getting frustrated with a certain part on a project, I'll set it down, step away, and I will go pick up another project, maybe one that has a small piece that I could work on and finish, that I've already solved that problem for. I can already go back, and I know how I'm going to do that. And I'll just do the busy work, and I'll get it finished, and I'll get a little win, get a little endorphin rush, and then I'll go back and revisit the thing that was frustrating me. That way I'm remaining productive. I'm not spending all day just beating my head against the wall, trying to solve a problem that maybe I just need a little bit of perspective on, or I just need a little bit of time away from it. There you go. Thank you, Johnny. Nate would like to know, what are your best tips for smoothing and applying Bondo to Pepakura? For those who don't know, Pepakura is folded paper. You throw a 3D model into Pepakura Designer, and it prints it out all flat, and then you cut it up, glue it together, and make a shape out of it. Generally, what you want to do is make sure that before you start applying Bondo, you want to make sure that the Pepakura is rigid. Usually that means using fiberglass resin and fiberglass cloth to make it rigid, so that you've got a platform to apply your Bondo to. Then you want to sand your resin so that it's not all shiny, so it's got something to grip to, so that the Bondo has something to grip to. So be very thorough with roughing up the surface that you're going to fair and smooth out with your Bondo, and then put your Bondo on there. Mix it up and apply it in nice small batches, and then start sculpting from there. So there you go. That's how I like to do my my Pepakura and my Bondo. Hopefully that was helpful for you, Nate. Good luck. Okay then. Another one from Colby. This one is, what's the best way for holstering your weapon, either with an actual holster or with magnets? I will tell you that I put 5 massive rare earth magnets. so massive that they had a warning sticker that said, like, hey, be careful, you'll crush your finger with these. They were 3/4 of an inch wide and 3/4 of an inch tall, these big old magnets. I embedded them in a plastic casting of a Mass Effect pistol. The pistol weighed about 1.8 pounds, which is significant. And then the client that I made it for put 5 of the same magnets in her armor, in her foam armor, and it was not even close to enough to keep that gun stuck to her. The reason being is magnets stick together. Like if they were hanging, that the forces at play there would have worked really, really well. But because there was a shearing force and the gun was a significant weight, it just slid off. Like if you ever have to get 2 magnets apart, you slide them apart, and that's what was happening. If you build your weapons from a lighter material, like if you made it out of EVA foam, then instead of 1.8 pounds, it's like 0.2 pounds. It's way, way lighter, and a magnet thing like that will totally work. Then it looks really cool because in the video game, it's supposed to look like the magnet's just stuck to your back with space magic. And then if you can't make that work, then you can build some sort of holster. Or maybe the costume has a holster on it already. For my Mass Effect armor, I put a couple of loops of black nylon webbing with a button snap on it, so that you wrap it around the gun and then snap it behind the belt. So you don't see the snap. You'll see the straps, but they look like black nylon straps. They're not too obnoxious. That way I could take one of my Mass Effect pistols and snap it on my belt on my back, and I don't have to carry it around all day, and it looks pretty good. So there you go. That's how I would recommend holstering your sidearms. Okay, another one from the live Q&A app. Let me refresh myself. Jenny would like to know, what do you suggest as a sort of beginner's kit to casting? What are the bare minimum tools and materials needed for someone who's interested in learning how to cast? If you want to learn how to make molds, I would recommend Smooth On and Tap Plastics. Both have videos on it. I would recommend starting with something small that would be a 1-part mold, because that is the easiest type of mold to make, and it uses a very little amount of material because silicone is expensive. And then you can go to Smooth On and order something like Mold Max 30, let's say, as a pretty generic silicone to use. Order it in a trial size. It's going to cost you 20 or 30 bucks maybe. But again, you're not breaking the bank here, and it's very likely that your first mold will fail. My first mold failed catastrophically, and I made a big 2-part mold, which was the equivalent of throwing $150 down the drain. So don't do it like I did it. Just make something small. So yeah, go check out some of the materials online, the videos that are available, and then go do it. Make something, mold something small that's a 1-part mold, just so you're familiar with the materials, what it's like to stir silicone, what it takes to make sure that the 2 parts are thoroughly incorporated. There you go, Jenny. Good luck with your casting. I hope you try it because mold making is really cool. Okay, Dan would say Dan would like to say, what are the pros and cons of your favorite building materials? I will pick one material. Let's go with MDF because it's cheap and a lot of people use it. The pros of MDF are that it is cheap and the density is homogeneous, meaning there is no wood grain. It's easy to cut. It's easy to it's predictable. Let's just say. The downside of MDF is it's really, really heavy. It's kind of hard to keep a good edge on it. Not as good as something like styrene, which is a hard plastic. I like to combine those two, and when I need a nice hard edge, I'll put styrene on it. And it kicks up a lot of dust when you're cutting it, and the dust is poisonous. That's right, it's got formaldehyde in it. So there are some downsides to it. Make sure you wear a respirator if you're cutting it. If you have a vacuum system, use that. That's what I do. But other than that, the pros are pretty good. It's really cheap, and it's good to work with. So there you go. That's my pros and cons of working with MDF by Bill Duran. Okay then. Harry would like to know, hey Bill, thanks for all the videos. They're great. Thanks, Harry. Is there any interest or chance of you attending any cons north of the border up in Canada in the future? I'm not signed on for any of them right now, but that Calgary one seemed pretty rad, and I might have to do that next year. Right now I'm trying to rearrange how I do like my build schedule every year to make time for more things like that. I have started getting invited to go be a guest at conventions, which is super neat, and I encourage this behavior. So if you have a local convention that that are looking for people to run some panels or judge a cosplay contest or do any of that sort of stuff, you know, throw them my name. The worst thing that can happen is say, no, that Bill guy's a jerk and he's ugly. We don't want him here. So yeah, I would happy to go up to Canada. I was just up in Victoria, British Columbia a couple days ago, and it was beautiful. I'd like to see more of your wonderful country. Thanks, Harry. All right. Mike would like to know, you have your current series of books that you're working on putting out. That's the Foamsmith trilogy. Do you have anything planned besides that, or anything that you'd like to do in a similar theme to those books? Mike, I've got a massive list of ebooks and instructional material that I will be just cranking out as fast as my little fingers can type them out. Right now, the only thing that's keeping me from doing that is working on other projects, like all the commissions I have for Dragon Con and for PAX, and doing all the fulfillment on my Kickstarter. But once I get through that huge chunk of work, I am going to start publishing more of that stuff because, A, it's the response to the Foamsmith trilogy has been incredible, and people are just jonesing to get their hands on that next book, which will be out this month. Come hell or high water, it's coming out this month. And also, B, it's awesome. People are buying them, so yay! You guys are being awesome and buying my stuff, so thank you. Yes, Mike. Many ebooks, many much instructional materials. So very cool. All right, this question is from Brian. What materials would you suggest for building up portfolio projects before you are able to invest in pricey molding materials? Like I was saying before, MDF is fairly cheap. And what's great is that let me think. Yeah, MDF is great. Insulation foam. There we go. Sorry, my brain just took a dump. Go look up Andrew Cook or DA Frontline Trooper. DA Frontline Trooper. He does just about all of his guns and swords and everything out of insulation foam. It is ridiculously cheap. You can cut it with a sharp knife. You can sand it. And he leans very heavily on his painting skills, which are significant, to get a piece that looks really, really great. The durability, not as awesome, but if you're looking for a piece that just plain looks awesome, start working with something like insulation foam, because then you can crank out something really fast, you can paint it up to make it look amazing, and then take really good photos. If it's a portfolio piece, either you or get someone who's good at taking photos to take really amazing photos of it, and then you'll have a nice piece for your portfolio. Something else I'd recommend if you're building up a portfolio is to, if you're building a replica, and I recommend for a portfolio to replicate something, include images in the portfolio of the original that you're copying. Include good photos of your finished piece so that they can compare the two and see how, yeah, you were trying to make this thing and you made a thing that looks like it. All right, good on you. Also, in your portfolio, include a couple of progress photos so that they can see the step-by-step that you went through. There you go, Brian. Boop. All right. This is going great. I'm so glad you guys are here asking me all of these awesome questions. Steven would like to know, do you have any tips on creating foot gear for a costume? Every piece of foot armor or whatever I have for my costume is built on an existing shoe. So when I wear out shoes, in fact, I just got a new pair of running shoes. So my old pair got retired, but I did not throw them away. I kept them. Those shoes will eventually be incorporated into another costume. Those shoes they already fit me. They're already comfortable. I can walk around in them all day without my feet hurting. So I can build like a foam armor shroud that goes over the shoe, or I can glue it right to the shoe. so that it looks like the piece I'm trying to make it look like. And the functional part of the shoe, the important part, still exists. There you go, Steven. Keep those old stinky shoes. Next question. This one comes from Bill. Bill, you have a fantastic name. Have there been any props from games or movies that have recently caught your eye or have interested you in any way? Yeah, I'm pretty stoked to make something from Destiny. I really do. I have a couple of friends and my wife who are working on the game. I'm way into it. What was it? They just released a bunch of really cool high-resolution reference images of weapons and character turnarounds and all that stuff, which makes me super happy because good reference images are vital for making replicas. Yeah, if you haven't seen those yet, go look them up, like high-res Destiny references or something like that, and go check them out and save the files down. Even if you're not going to use them, put them in your hoard of digital references because they're awesome. Destiny. I probably have to make a sniper rifle because my friend Dave modeled all of them. All right. Here we go. John has a silly question and an honest question. I like both of those. You're at your favorite convention and you discover that everyone will become the real-life version of what they are cosplaying in 90 seconds. What do you do to survive? Well, first of all, I'm dressed up as Commander Shepard, so I just find the nearest Garrus, team up, right? And then shoot first and ask questions later. That's what I think Commander Shepard would do. The serious question, honest question. What caught you by surprise when starting your small business? Any advice for people trying something similar? I have lots and lots of advice for people trying it out, but it's really hard to learn those lessons without going through them. So you can look up, you can listen to podcasts about businesses, which is what I do, and you can learn lots of stuff, but you won't really get it until you start doing it. What caught me by surprise? How much time I would spend as a professional prop maker not making props. Because I have to be the secretary, I have to be the invoice guy, I have to do shipping, I have to do packaging, I have to collect commissions, I have to answer questions, I have to be customer service, I have to be all of that stuff because I'm the only person who works for this damn company. And that surprised me very quickly, how that kind of escalated. And it's a sort of thing that doesn't slow down until I hopefully get to a point where I can hire someone to help me do that kind of stuff. If you are looking to start your business, John, good luck, because it's a living anxiety attack, but totally worth it. Follow your dreams, kids. All right. Riley wants to know, have you made a prop gun out of EVA foam, and if so, do you have any tips for making a prop gun out of EVA foam? I have not, but my shopmate Will Morgan from WM Armory, that's WMArmory.com, he has a book, an ebook, $5, totally worth it, all about making guns from EVA foam. And it's really, really good, and you can make them stuff that looks seriously legit, totally out of EVA foam with only a few tools. So go check that out. I would say my tip for doing that is practice on scraps. Any new techniques you're trying to do, or not even a new technique, if you have a specific thing you're trying to carve in or design or whatever, practice it on a scrap first because EVA is cheap. You don't want to spend a day building a piece and then just dash it against the rocks by screwing up a cut or something. So practice. Practice, practice, practice. Boop-a-dee, boop-boo. All right. Sanit would like to know, I find myself, this is Sanit speaking, I find myself always on social media looking at other people's work. There are so many people like me, Harrison, etc., who do cool projects. I find myself wanting to try out many techniques, as many techniques as I can. Do you think it's important to have a good knowledge of all materials? If you have materials that work for you and you're getting really good at them, then if you're going to be the MDF gun guy, then embrace that. Get really good at using one of them. But I will tell you though, the guys who have been in prop making, not me, guys who've been in prop making for 10, 20 years, they know every material. They just fountains of knowledge when it comes to which kind of silicone to use, what kind of, all that stuff. And that knowledge will come. It's not the sort. You don't have to sit down and read the encyclopedia on prop making materials. I would say just start with what you're comfortable with, what you can afford, what you have the tools to be able to use, and get good at that. Over time, you will get good at acquiring skills, and then you'll try out a new material, and learning how to use that material or new tools will come quicker because you spent that time acquiring other skills. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I actually know what I'm talking about. Okay, then. This question is coming in from Michael. Hi, Bill. Was your Kickstarter project the success you wanted it to be? Do you see yourself putting another project together for Kickstarter in the future? Thanks always, Golden Age Cosplay, a.k.a. Michael. The Kickstarter project, the success I wanted it to be, yes. My goal going in was kind of like a test to see if people were interested in buying something that I designed versus a replica of something from a video game that I made. It was kind of like a personal integrity or personal satisfaction test, let's say. So and yes, people were willing to throw down cash for that, which was very, very satisfying. And I'm so yes, in that respect, it was a success I wanted it to be. The learning experience afterwards of fulfilling a Kickstarter project and doing larger scale production than I had ever done before, I was not at all prepared for that. That was kind of bonkers. But I'm getting, it's a skill I'm getting better at. I'm learning. So in that regard, no, it wasn't exactly how I thought it would be. But in any case, it is. It's working. It's getting there. Do you see yourself putting together another Kickstarter project? I most certainly do. I don't think I need to put together another prop. I think that if I have another product like that, I'll just put a pre-sale on my website. I don't need to raise money or get the crowd together. I think I've already sort of accomplished that. I do, however, have some other types of projects that would lend themselves very well for a crowdfunding campaign. Some video projects, if I want to do a video project, but the scale or the materials or the equipment, even more vital, would be are outside of my price range currently. I would do a Kickstarter for that. Yeah, so I do have other ideas. I gotta finish the one I'm working on right now, though. All right, thank you, Golden Age Cosplay. Speaking of equipment, Suzanne wants to know, what camera do you use to take photos of your work? I currently use a Nikon D7000 DSLR camera, and it's a wonderful little camera. I used to be way super hobbyist photographer. I had a whole crap ton of really nice lenses that all fell in the ocean. That was a sad story. The good news is I didn't die when I fell in the ocean with my lenses. Since doing the prop making thing for a career, my hobby as a photographer has fell by the wayside, but I will be getting back into that pretty soon. I just went shooting last night and this morning, in fact, with a friend. Anyway, long story short, I got that DSLR after my old one fell in the ocean, and I love it. It is a really nice little consumer-grade camera. It shoots pretty good video. It shoots pretty good photos. If you want to get good photos of your props, you don't need a DSLR. You don't need that. I'm just picky because I'm Mr. Photographer Man. What you need is a lot of light, because realistically, photography is capturing light. So, and in fact, I did a YouTube video about this. Let me look this up real quick so that I can actually reference it. I did a video on this a while back, and I'll probably do another one soon, maybe advanced lighting techniques for prop shooting. Photography. Nope. I spelled photography wrong. Well done, Bill. Alright, let's see. Yep, almost there. And I lost it. Okay. If you go to Punished Props or YouTube.com/PunishedProps and look up prop and costume photography tips, you'll see the video I did. And I did a side-by-side comparison. I took a gun, I lit it very well using, I think, 3 lights. I took a photo with my DSLR and I took a photo with my iPhone. And the DSLR one is clearly better, but the iPhone one is pretty damn good. So I would say shoot with what you got, but invest in some lights. And by invest, I mean some can lights from the hardware store. Put $20 into like 2 or 3 of those. And that will get you a lot further than spending $1,200 on a new camera body. All right, that's the last of the questions I had from Facebook from earlier today. Thank you guys for submitting those. Let's chew through some more from the Q&A app. You guys are throwing them at me, coming in hot. Celano would like to know, do you have any future projects you can tell us about? Yes, I have a handful coming up. I'm doing a shield from Dragon Age. I'm doing a... I forgot. I have a list somewhere. I'm doing Sword Splosion, gun from Borderlands. I'm super jazzed about that one. I love the Borderlands guns. I'm doing an Elder Scroll. Ooh, the case like with the Elder Scroll in it. And I'm doing a custom bow, like a bow and arrow that I got to design myself. I had a client who wanted me to design a bow, and I did, and I'm really happy about that. So look for those coming down the pike. They'll be coming out soon, actually. Boop, 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 boop. Another question from Hannah. Speaking of mold making, what is your favorite mold release? Do you prefer spray on mold release? I prefer baby powder. So what you do is you have your mold open before you cast anything. You put baby powder in, you make sure it gets in all the nooks and crannies, and then you blow out all the extra. Make sure it's not stuck in any corners, otherwise there will be a void there when you cast your piece. Then you close it together, pour in your resin, and when it pops out, it separates easier from the mold, saving the mold from extra stress when you pull it apart. And I really like the finish you get with baby powder over using a spray-on mold release. If you're using a tin cure silicone, and maybe even for platinum ones, the baby powder will pull moisture out of it. So I will go back and spray mold release in the mold after I do 5 or 6 castings. Let the mold absorb some of that spray release, and then wipe it down so that it extends the life of the mold. There you go, yeah. Robert would like to know any suggestions for sculpting symmetrical machined details in Bondo. If you're doing like details, I would say sand your surface down to the consistency that you want, the shape, the form that you want, and then draw out your pattern on paper or make a stencil for it so that you can draw it on one side of the surface, flip it over, and draw it on the other. If you need to get the 2 sides, the form symmetrical, get a contour gauge. It's a tool with all these teeth in it like a comb. You can push it on one side, flip it over, and lay it against it to see if the contours are similar. And then make a stencil that you'll draw your machined details in, and then flip it over and draw it on the other side. That way, at the very least, your sculpting skills may require that you are accurate with it, but at least you'll have a baseline that you can work off from and hopefully get it looking pretty good. If you can, if the machined details are something that you could build not on the piece and then do like a push mold and cast a couple of copies of those, that might be one way to do it too. Then you can just take those pieces, clean them up, and then glue them to the surface. There you go, Robert. All right. Another question from Harry. Any advice on using or sculpting expanding foam? Expanding foam, so it's usually a polyurethane resin, just like most of the other resins that I use, but it's got bubbles in it and it expands, and you can get it in that will expand at different volumes. It'll expand twice its normal volume, so the liquid volume, or it'll expand 10 times or 30 times, which is crazy. Look up some videos on other people doing it, because it's a little more finicky than just pouring in a liquid resin. usually you'll have a very little pot life, meaning how long the mixed resin can sit in the cup before you have to pour it. Meaning, like, sometimes it's less than a minute, easily less than a minute. So, for one, if you have some mechanical means of stirring it, like a mixing squirrel and a drill, and a power drill, do that because A, you want bubbles as opposed to other casting methods. You definitely want to incorporate bubbles. And B, you want to mix it thoroughly and fast because you want to pour it fast. And if you want nice big pouring spouts on your mold so that you can just drop it in and fill it up and let it do its expanding thing. A lot of trial and error here. I found it to be very, very finicky, and if you pour it into a mold, you want to slush it around while it's still mostly liquid before it's turned into big bubbles to coat the inside of the mold. Otherwise, it's not going to expand and fill air pockets the way you might think it will. Do a couple of them. Do some small-scale tests. And you'll see exactly what I mean. There you go. All right. Question here from Vincent. This is a good one. Hey, Bill, any survival tips to go through Dragon Con weekend? Don't try and do everything. It's not going to happen. Generally, what I like to do is, if I can find out who's going to be there, people I know, friends that I haven't seen, people I only get to see at Dragon Con, I will make a list of their names and just make an effort to make sure that we get some FaceTime, get to hang out and chat. That is primary next to things like going to see William Shatner. I would rather see my friends that I don't get to see but for at Dragon Con. Drink lots of water, especially if you're planning on going to the parade, which is Saturday morning. Drink water beforehand because you do the whole parade route and you're just out there in the sun and it's oppressive and you're wearing armor and you want to pass out. Drink lots of armor the whole time you're there, especially if you're in costume. This will sound bonkers, I know, but try not to get too drunk. Last year, I had a really, really fun time on Friday. Had maybe just a little bit too much rum, and I tried to go to the parade the next day in my armor and my Skyrim armor. I was a little hungover, and that was a huge mistake. I was dehydrated. I had a headache. I was nauseous. I was lying on the pavement. So yeah, I know it's crazy party time, but missing a couple hours from a convention that already feels too short because you've had too much to drink the night before is a mistake that I have done before, and I would like to avoid in the future. So have a good time, but don't go too crazy, kids. All right. Let's see. We've got about 15 minutes left and plenty more questions, so I'm going to see how many of these I can chew through. Rob would like to know, do you happen to know if Rustoleum Clearcoat plays nice on top of standard latex art paints, Liquitex, Reeves, etc.? I haven't quite figured out how Clearcoat differs from regular spray paints, but it seems like it does. I don't really use latex paints. I haven't in the past. But just like most things, if you have a process that you are not familiar with or you're not sure how it's going to turn out, do a test piece. Do several test pieces. Make notes on your test pieces. Put the date on there. Write down exactly what you did in what order that you did them in. And then observe the results. Because if it's catastrophic, then you may want to make a note that says, never do this again, and staple it to the wall and make sure you don't accidentally do that in the future. It's the sort of thing where spending a couple of hours doing some tests like that will pay dividends in the future that are invaluable. Alright, there you go, Rob. Play with that. I've never tried latex paints. Well, maybe I'll have to try that sometime. I know a lot of different paints don't like to play well with one another. I think it's enamel and lacquers, I think. Don't quote me on that. Look it up. Nathaniel wants to know, what material would you use for a visor when making a full-face EVA foam helmet? If you can buy a motorcycle helmet that's pretty darn close, I would say go for it, or a motorcycle visor. I found one for my Dread helmet that was, I think, $12. I just bought that. And then you can cut it to shape. You can glue it inside. You can get them tinted. You can get them with like reflective coatings on them. And if that'll get you most of the way there, I say go for it, because your time savings for not having to build one from scratch and your money savings from building something or buying something super cheap will make you feel a lot better about it not being exactly the right shape that you might need it. If you really want to go bonkers and get one that looks really, really cool, then you can start investigating sculpting a vacuum form buck and then building a vacuum form table and vacuum forming PET plastic over it. But that is a way more of a commitment than just buying a visor for a motorcycle helmet on the internet. Let me fix something here. There we go. All right. Nate wants to know, what are your favorite tools you own and how often do you use them? I have a Craftsman rotary tool with the flexible shaft on it. I use that just about every single day. You know, your Dremel, your rotary tool. That thing is awesome. I use that every day. So go get one of those. I especially like that it's got the flexible shaft on it. It's neat. I also I have a disc sander, belt sander combo. That's sort of a bigger thing. It's going to generate a whole crap load of dust, but that thing saves time like you can't believe because it will just chew through material. One more. Let's say bandsaw and scroll saw. I use them both a lot. I like them a lot. That scroll saw has been my workhorse for a long time. The bandsaw is pretty new, but the scroll saw, there is so much you can do with a scroll saw. You don't even believe. Go check out ZProps. ZProps.com. Is that where is that what it is? ZProps.com. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. Just look up ZProps on Google. That's Xander Brandt. He makes just about everything. Zprops.blogspot.com. He makes just about everything of his with a scroll saw, and it looks super fantastic. So go check him out. Get yourself a scroll saw. All right. Thank you, Nate. This one here is from Andrew. What are some costumes you are looking forward to doing in the near future? My wife and I are going to BlizzCon this year, so we're going to make some Blizzard costumes. We haven't really locked it down exactly what we will be doing yet, but I am very much looking forward to making a new costume with my wife. I'm going to have to make something from Destiny. I'm looking forward to that a lot. The Order 1886 looks super rad. I like the design of the outfits on those. So when that game comes out, I may make something from that. I've yet to pick out something that would be a favorite from Dragon Age Inquisition, but that one's up there too. And like 36 other costumes I want to make. Such is the life of the cosplayer. Michael would like to know, do you plan on returning to Phoenix Comicon next year? Yes! Yes, I do. I have a whole bunch of really awesome friends down there. They're just the nicest people, and even though your entire state is the surface of Tatooine, they were very persuasive, and I do believe I'll be going back next year. So, yes, Michael says he missed me, so next year, Michael, I'll make an effort, and you make an effort, and we'll go hang out. It'll be awesome. Just a couple more questions here, and then I'm going to skedaddle. Foosro Dave. Great name, Dave. Hey, Bill, do you think you could make a video detailing how you scale your props? The Risty Mason's shield video is helpful, but I'm still having some issues. Also, when sanding, when is the best way to remove the dust so it won't affect your paint? Scaling stuff can be tricky. I went to school for computer art, so I'm very, very familiar with Photoshop, doing scaling in that. But also, I have a strong background in drafting, technical drafting, and architectural drafting. So, I guess I'm pretty good at it already. Not bragging, but I'm pretty good at scaling stuff. Yeah, another video on that. Maybe I gotta put that on my list of things that I might do, which is a very long list of video ideas. Essentially, though, you need something that has a scale. I use a gun. I took a picture of my hand holding a gun with a ruler in it, so that I know this is how big my hand is with a gun that I can scale a reference image gun down to, and then compare that to the ruler in the photo, and then I will know how big the thing I'm making should be. When sanding, what is the best way to remove the dust so it won't affect your paint? I use a combination of I have a dust collector, so it pulls dust out of the air, and I also have an air compressor to blast air out. If you don't have an air compressor, you can get those cans of air used for cleaning a computer. And what I would recommend is set up your shop vac or a vacuum cleaner nearby so that you blast the dust out of the crevices of your prop, and then that gets sucked up by your vacuum. You don't just blast it around your shop or house. All right, there you go, Dave. Ooh, Nate wants to know, how long did it take to make the claptrap, and do you have any tips? For those that don't know, I'm making a little army of claptrap robots, or I'm heading the charge to make a bunch of them for DragonCon, and a whole bunch of people are. If you go to tiny.cc/claptrapdc, all one word, you'll go to the Facebook group. Anyone can join it and see what that's all about. But we're gonna hopefully have a good handful of those at DragonCon this year, running around causing havoc. It took me, I'm gonna say, roughly 10 hours of work. I have a video on my YouTube channel. Look up Punished Props Claptrap. You'll probably find it. Detailing the entire build. Again, about 10 hours of work. The tips are, have fun with it. You know, give yourself a couple of good weekend days to chew through that build. If you're not quite familiar with all the materials and tools that I use. There you go. I hope you build one, Nate. If you do, let me know. I want to see it. Let's see. Atlas Cosplay is building a costume. Let's see if I can. Nope. I'm sorry, Atlas, but your link did not work for me, so I can't bring it up. Building the Alice Madness Returns Pepper Grinder. I guess I can just look that up. Alice Madness Returns Pepper Grinder. Oh, it looks like a seashell? No, what's that? This is terrible radio. Oh, that's kind of neat. So pepper grinders are made on a lathe, and if you don't have a lathe, then you've got a lot more work ahead of you. I would find a pepper grinder that looks similar to that and sculpt on top of it. That's what I would probably do if you don't already have a lathe. Or, I mean, you could just carve it. Just get a hunk of wood and carve it with chisels, woodworking chisels and knives and stuff. And be very patient, be very safe. I cut myself very badly doing wood carving when I was in college. There we go. I'm going to end it there, guys. And I'm going to thank all of you for joining me today. This has been really great. And I'm going to go take a nap, I think, because I'm exhausted. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. Thank you for sending me your wonderful questions. You guys make this show happen, because otherwise it would just be me here drooling on myself. All right. I will do this again next week, and I'll have a guest, and it'll be super awesome. So check it out next week, guys. Toodaloo.